Good morning, guys. Good morning. A little bit, maybe good afternoon. Depends what time you woke up. Jack's going to join me today. We could do 3 hours on Lamar Jackson, but I'll just do a good 30 seconds here because it's just running out of words what he did yesterday. I really don't know. I'm still not used to this. Growing up as a Ravens fan, we're supposed to win like 13-10, 17-13. Every game is like this. I thought the defense would play better yesterday. They did in certain spots, but Jamar Chase, like, I don't know, maybe we could guard him at some point. But regardless, Lamar's Lamar. Lamar wins. Ravens win. So, like I said, we could do 3 hours on it, but I brought you one this morning. I kind of we're basically at the halfway point in the NFL season. So let's kind of go around, see what your thoughts are, get ready for some of the action tomorrow. And so instead of starting with the Ravens and stating the obvious, which is we can win the Super Bowl, but also, they got to fix the defense, right? They just do. Thought it'd be better yesterday. It wasn't. Let's start with Cincinnati. What's the conclusion of them yesterday? Because they're fitting, to me, the category of if they get in the playoffs, you don't want to face them. But at this point, they're 4-6. They're at the Chargers next week. Do they sneak back in the playoffs? What was your takeaway last night? The lure is yours.
Yeah, so I really like this team. They're probably one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL, but I also would call them one of the unluckiest teams in the NFL. And teams that don't get lucky usually don't win Super Bowls. So they have the talent. Joe Burrow's playing well. Chase obviously lit it up yesterday, but they need some things to fall their way to even make the playoffs. And I don't know if that's going to happen. They play in the toughest division in football.
Where do you see the following week where the Chargers get an easy game? Nothing's easy, right? But they get the Titans at home this week. And then, it's Bengals at Chargers, early handicapping. The Bengals will have some extra days rest. Do you think it's a really tough matchup against the Chargers defense, right?
Yeah, Chargers defense has been playing really well. Harbaugh's got them firing. Their offensive weapons aren't quite as established as they've been in the past, the Chargers. But, McConkey's having a great year. Their run game's always there with J.K. Dobbins. It's definitely not a gimme for the Bengals.
Yeah, they'll certainly be the underdog. That, to me, just looking at things, I guess that probably is the must-win. They go 4-7, and technically it's not a must-win. 4-7, they can still – I guess 10 wins, though, I think in the AFC is, be safe. So
probably gets you in, yeah, honestly. With how top-heavy the AFC is, that probably gets you in.
Is there a team – let's kind of go around, the relevant teams. The Bills look great. They've improved themselves kind of quietly. They got 2 defensive tackles, 2 cast-offs, Jefferson and Jordan Phillips and Quentin Jefferson. But that was really – when the Ravens ran down their throat, I don't know if those 2 guys are going to fix the problem, but that was the big weakness on the Bills defense, just a little skinny. They would have a hard time stopping the run up the middle. Love the way their offense is looking. What's your outlook on the Bills as we, like I said, about halfway through the season?
I think they're the Ravens' biggest competition. Well coached, one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league. Solid defense, weapons are developing. Shakir's having a good year. Keon Coleman's a stud. Kincaid's a stud. They have a lot of weapons. And then, you can't forget about James Cook either in that run game.
Yeah, I think the Bills will be there at the end. I like the makeup of this team. The Dolphins lose back-to-back weeks in games. They've lost a lot of weeks in a row, it feels like. But they lost to the Cardinals last week. Or who did they lose to last week? It was 2 weeks ago to the Cardinals. They just lost to Buffalo, right? Tough game, right?
They lost to the Bills. Tough game. They were up there for a while and then kind of blew it at the end. Josh Allen did his thing. So
the Dolphins are kind of down and out. They're going to get the Rams Monday Night Football, and the Jets. They're 3-6. They're going to face the Cardinals this week. Either one of those teams have a chance to make the playoffs, or you're writing both of them off?
I don't know. I'm high on the Rams. I was high on the Rams earlier. The Cardinals, I'm not really sure. I think jury's still out on them. Again, great weapons. McBride's having a great year. Their defense, I have some questions about, though.
Well, I'm sorry. I was going to get to those 2 anyway. But what about the Jets and the Dolphins in particular? Do you think they have a chance to sneak up?
I personally think Rodgers is out if they don't make the playoffs this year. That's kind of my take, is he might be done if they don't make the playoffs this year. I think they have the weapons to. And again, getting repetitive, but offense is winning games in the NFL this year. So, I mean, you have a good defense, like even like Broncos versus the Ravens is a prime example. Best red zone defense versus the best red zone offense, and you saw what happened. So, offense is what's going to win you games and what's going to get you deep in this league now. And those, like both of those teams have the weapons, but everybody's been so displaced with Tua having a concussion and not playing for weeks, and then Devontae Adams just coming in, and the Jets whole being discombobulated with the whole Robert Saleh situation. Like, there's so many moving parts for both of those teams. They need to get it figured out quick, or they're going to get left behind.
Yeah, so it's kind of fascinating because they're going to Arizona, and then Miami goes to Los Angeles, and both of those teams are kind of in the same boat, but just have an extra win in the NFC. It's just going to be, I think it's going to be easier to get in there. Although, who knows the way things play out. But, okay, so when you go down to the other divisions and you hit we talked about the Bengals. The Browns are obviously done. They've been done. I don't know what their game plan is. They're not really worth the conversation. Same thing with the Patriots. They'll be competitive. The Patriots probably in more games. I mean, the takeaway with Drake May is he's just way better than they got the right guy there. He looks really good, but their team's just not very good. So those two teams are irrelevant. The Steelers are. I'm too biased to have like an opinion. So why don't you tell me what you think? They're going for the Super Bowl, right? They brought in Preston Smith. They brought in Mike Williams. Russell Wilson looks good. The best game of the week off the top of my head, Lions-Texans is a good one, but Steelers-Commanders is must-see TV. Give me your takeaway with the Steelers. Could they more likely to make the Super Bowl or lose in the first round?
I think they're more likely to make the Super Bowl and lose in the first round. They're legit. Tomlin is, you could argue Tomlin's the best coach in the NFL. And I mean, I could definitely see where somebody would be coming from saying that. They're such a well put together team. They're almost like the anti-Jets in a way. They are a well-oiled machine. They don't mess up a lot. They play hard-nosed, smash-mouth football. A lot of effort on both sides of the ball. You got a veteran in Russell Wilson who's finally finding his stride. That team is very dangerous. And if I'm the Ravens, if I'm a Ravens fan like you, I would be a little bit worried about meeting them in the second round.
How do you think this weekend plays out? They're at Washington. It'll probably be 50-50 fans, though, the way they travel, the proximity. What's your gut tell you how that game plays out?
I personally like the Steelers there. I think the Commanders are a really fun team that hasn't truly been tested against, all right, we're going to come at you and we're going to come at you hard and you better be ready. And that's kind of how the Steelers play football. Like there's no – them and the Lions are very similar, and we're going to punch you in the mouth 100 times. And if you're still standing, then congrats.
Yeah, the Ravens play the Steelers, I believe, the following week. So that should be – yeah, they haven't played at all this year, so it's going to be great. It's been a struggle. Like, Lamar has struggled against the Steelers. It feels like he's hurt a lot of times that when we play him. But, that's the game next week for the Ravens. Just a 1 o'clock game. And then they play the Chargers the following week. Yep. So Steelers get the Commanders. All right. What's the takeaway from your Broncos? I'm not going to rub it in too much in your face. Just is what it is, right? Ravens. I mean, I feel like you guys, those fourth downs, even though we won by so much the week before, a lot of these games really are 50-50 games. And in particular, that Broncos-Ravens game is the perfect game where if you didn't watch it, you would think it wasn't competitive at all. But in fact, I felt like the Broncos, I kind of came away from the game like feeling optimistic if I was a Broncos fan. Score didn't look good. I understand being aggressive on fourth down. Maybe it was good for you to get killed like that if you had an easier opponent this week. But now you're at Kansas City. Go ahead and make your argument here for the Broncos getting into that 6 or 7 spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think it's just you're running out of teams, and it's a big benefit for Bo Nix being able to potentially go play a playoff game as a rookie, and like genuinely, I mean, there's a ton of years where you remember like the 10-6 Dolphins don't make the playoffs because the AFC is so deep. This year, there's such a steep drop that, I mean, if my math is correct, there's going to be 2 seeds for teams that may not really deserve to be there. A team like the Broncos, the Chargers, the Colts, depending on if Flacco can get it figured out, and then the Bengals. That's kind of my thought. And so I think that I feel pretty good, kind of like you were saying, about how the game went, but I think we got screwed on our third down defense. That's what my main takeaway was Lamar scrambling and creating outside of the pocket. We couldn't keep contained on third down, and should have been punts or field goal attempts turned into touchdown drives.
Why did you guys trade Browning? That seemed surprising.
He's kind of a mental liability. Talent's there, kind of a mental liability. We have Benito on the other side, so
Got it. So Broncos, Chargers look like they're separating themselves a little bit. But just when you think you figure things out, the Titans will probably beat the Chargers this week. That's just like how the NFL is. It's like nobody will take the Titans because the Chargers look dominant. Now, I will say the Chargers are the most predictable team. They're playing football. They're the easiest team to bet on, frankly, if you just believe that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, which is run the football, play good defense. They dominated Cleveland last week. They get the Titans, should be another win for them. Then they get Cincinnati. You think the Chargers have the same ceiling as the Steelers? Like you said, the Steelers can go this. No, you don't believe in the Chargers.
I think the Broncos beat the Chargers pretty handily earlier this year. They play them again right around Christmas, I want to say. I group the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Colts and the Bengals all together. Two of those teams will get the last two seeds in the AFC.
Cool. And moving on we'll do a little bit on I don't have to go through every scenario at the NFC, it'll kind of change, but focusing more on the gambling aspect as you try to find like some value here. You know, there's really, if you're looking at NFC championship odds, you always want to buy low, right? Like that's just the right way of looking at it. The Lions they could be the best team, but betting on them right this second, it doesn't feel like the logical thing to do because this is as high as they're going to get. They're going to lose eventually. My thought process when you're trying to find the right time to bet on these teams is when, like I said, you can buy low. So with that being said, what are some of these dark horse possibilities as a team that just looks like right this second they would have no chance to win the NFC, but they could get hot, get on a roll? It's hard to even get out of my mouth, but I guess we'll put the Cowboys in that category. Put the Bears in that category. I'll put the Packers since they're not playing great, but I think we're already both high on the Packers. The Bucks would be in that category. The Rams, Seahawks, any of those teams where you're like, I could see them winning the NFC or no?
So we'll just go down the list there. Cowboys, I think, are cooked. They might not even make the playoffs. I think that's probably my biggest incorrect when we went through and picked the playoff teams. I think that was probably my biggest oversight there. I'm very high on the Rams. Again, like I've been saying, offense wins here, and they're getting Nakua back. They're getting Cooper Kupp back. Stafford has a lot of confidence right now, and Sean McVay, again, you could argue he's the best coach in the NFL. That's a team that their record doesn't show how good they are, and that's a team that I'm really high on. They could make a run.
And then the top teams, who challenges the Lions the best? Do you think the Lions are tough game against Houston this week in Houston? Eventually they're going to lose. The way they're playing, they're dominant right now, but I don't know. I say they're eventually lose. Maybe not. How do you think they match up against Houston? And do you see them as the clear-cut best team in the NFC? Or do you think the Eagles, Packers, Falcons, Niners? How do you see it all play out?
I think from a talent standpoint, the Falcons and the Niners have a certain say in that argument. Like they got a foot in the door, put it that way. But I mean, the Lions, you just see Dan Campbell rallying the troops. Those guys are playing like a well-oiled machine, and then they have the talent. Offensively and defensively, even with Hutchinson out, like they can just beat you because they're better than you. And then they're also going to beat you because they play better together than you do.
I would say
well-oiled machine.
Aaron Glenn has made one of the biggest rises. I remember watching Hard Knocks and being like, I'm betting the team total over against the Lions every week of my life because I couldn't believe this guy was the defensive coordinator. You can only see so much on camera, but it was so bad. And he was bad to start off. But he was only bad for a few games. It's like he's fixed it. Their defense is terrifying. They really
flying around.
Yeah, Jordan Love was bad. It's getting to a point where it's a pattern where he's just making a just catastrophic decision. It started in the playoffs last year. It just feels like each week he's doing something terrible. They started to get together. The Packers, in my opinion, that was a really bad loss. I don't know. I feel like I've changed my opinion on their ceiling after that game. What about you? Are you just writing it off, or was there?
He was on one leg. I mean, he did the whole fall over under center thing again. I mean, I think the Packers are going to be fine.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So Cardinals, Rams, Niners. It's Seahawks. It's all competitive out in the NFC West. NFC North is super competitive. Vikings, Bears, Packers, Lions. It's East is good. It's really competitive all the way around. So it's fun every few weeks to check up on it. But I still remember last year when everybody penciled in the Jaguars and they were like 8-3 and they fell apart. So I'm like more fascinated about like which team's going to fall apart. I feel like I'm biased by just saying that it's going to be the Eagles because I keep saying it's going to be the Eagles. But if I made you choose Bills, Texans, Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, Eagles, like these top division teams, if one of them was going to fall apart, who do you see? I know injuries can play a part of it. Lawrence was probably hurt last year, and that hurt the Jaguars. But is it the Texans? Because it seems like they're having a hard time protecting Stroud. Is there somebody else that you're not as high on that's off to a good start?
That's kind of who I'm thinking. I mean, the Eagles are always kind of like toeing that line between mediocrity and actually a championship contender. And sometimes they show signs of Sirianni might need to get fired because some of these play calls and like schemes are terrible. But I think it's the Texans. I'm not fully sold on Stroud in general. And if Stroud goes down, they are screwed because I mean, Nico Collins is on IR. Tank Dell is not having as good of a year as you would think. Mixon is really the heart and soul of their offense.
Yeah, Mixon looked great on Thursday night. And Stroud, I mean, I'm really high on Stroud, but he did miss a couple throws Thursday night that cost him. I think he's hurt. That's what Herb Street said during the game. So they have a really tough game. If the Lions beat them up, and then the Colts, though, they can't figure it out. So, all right, we'll check back on that, excuse me, after Thanksgiving, kind of get a nice update on where things are at. What about for tomorrow? College football, Alabama LSU is always the headline, but both teams are out of the top 10. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but when the last time that was? I can't even.
It's been a while.
It's 11-14, though. It's at LSU. It's a night game. Still going to watch it. Still one of the best games every year. Handicap it for us because we're getting to the point now where we might have 2 3-loss SEC teams in the playoffs. Both of these teams have 2 losses. Go ahead. LSU, Alabama, how do you see it playing out?
This is effectively an elimination game, in my opinion. I don't think either of these teams can get in with 3 losses unless we see absolute carnage somewhere else. I mean, I'm leaning LSU just because of the game being in Death Valley. I don't think either of these teams is deserving to be in the playoff, personally. Alabama has not looked the part since that first half against Georgia. So leaning LSU, going to do a little more research, see how Nussmeier really matches up and how he has played in big games.
So you're telling me this is these guys are not part of the first like the upper class of the SEC. The best football is being played by Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. They're here, really. And where's Texas A&M fall?
I would say that tier 2 is kind of the teams that are confused. Could be in tier 1: Ole Miss, Bama, LSU, Texas A&M.
So then got 3 teams.
Missouri's kind of fringe in there. I don't know. They have the talent to be there, but they just have not looked good against the 2 good teams they've played.
Got it. So you see a separation between Georgia. Is there a separation within Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee?
I think we'll learn a lot about that, not this weekend, but next weekend when Tennessee travels to Georgia.
And what was the takeaway of Georgia? What's the takeaway with Carson Beck in general? And then pivot that towards who's the best quarterback? Who do you like watching the most? Because Beck was supposed to be the top pick in the draft, correct? And I don't think we're trending in that direction right this second.
I think we're trending in the day 3 draft for Carson Beck right now. I'm a big fan of Jaden Rashada, who went to Arizona State. He was originally committed to Florida. Some weird stuff happened there. Went to Arizona State, lit it up, transferred to Georgia to really develop as a QB this year. And I think from a talent standpoint, he's the most talented quarterback Georgia has had since Justin Fields.
And that's a backup quarterback. Why wouldn't they play him?
I mean, Kirby rides his guy. That's probably Kirby's biggest fault, if there is such a thing. He rides his guy, period. So Beck, unless he throws 3 more picks this week and we lose to Ole Miss, I don't think he's going to bench back for the rest of the year. I don't see a world where he does. And Rashada might not even be the starter. I mean, Gunnar Stockton is the quote unquote backup right now. He's the guy that's kind of sat behind Beck and sat behind Stetson. And so I think he would probably get a shot, but I would rather see Rashada because Rashada can run and he's got a gun.
And then the best quarterback in all of college football is at Ward in Miami.
By a country mile. We were talking about this earlier. But the state of Florida's college football is kind of in shambles. Cam Ward has the entire college football slate in the state of Florida on his back right now because Miami is not a good program. They're not well coached. They're not disciplined, but Cam Ward is so good that he's willing them to win games.
And to your point, Florida State is god awful this year. That's
Florida just lost their 5-star QB. Like both of those teams are kind of in shambles right now.
It's the one bet I'm gonna have a hard time getting over because I lost so much money with them last year against LSU, and that turned me off from college football. I'm like, you know what, just forget about it. Now I got to focus on the business, all these different things, right? And then I was like, I know they're gonna suck this year. Just demoralized from what happened last year. Very bad vibes to lose by 80 points in a bowl game. And then that quarterback is just horrible. Ukulele, whatever. Like I've seen him. He's not good. So whatever. It's over with. All right. What else we got this weekend? Michigan, Indiana. Is Indiana good? Like what's happening here?
Yeah, we'll see. Games in Indiana, Michigan coming to town. Probably their hardest game of the year.
They don't have to play Ohio State or Oregon or Penn State, Indiana?
I'm not sure yet. I don't think so. I think they might play Oregon later in the calendar. It might be Ohio State. Actually, yeah, they play Ohio State. It's either next week or the week after. But to date, this is their most difficult game.
So is Michigan, I haven't really been following it too much with Michigan. It seems like they switched the quarterbacks around. They don't seem very good. So is Indiana you're right. They got Ohio State the following week, but then they get Purdue. So as long as they beat Michigan,
they're pretty much in.
How's that going to happen?
It's crazy. But a one-loss Big 12 or a one-loss Big 10 team is going to get in. Doesn't matter.
They got to win 2 out of 3 basically with Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's interesting. And then we got. Did we? I didn't even ask you. We were talking Georgia, but how they match up with Ole Miss? Do you think Ole Miss can get them? The game's in Ole Miss, and Georgia seems to struggle with the running quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, I mean Dart's semi-mobile. He's not like Jalen Monroe. Yeah, but we'll see. I've always thought Oxford is a great town, but it's more of a wine and cheese town. It's not a very difficult place to go play in terms of SEC atmosphere. It's definitely not an easy place to play, but it's not Death Valley. It's not Tuscaloosa. It's not Jordan Hare and Auburn. Like it's definitely a more relaxed environment where, I genuinely think Carson Beck could get comfortable and have 3 touchdown day.
Ole Miss, Georgia, Ohio State gets an easy one with Purdue. Clemson, where are we at with Clemson? They haven't looked great lately. They're at Virginia Tech.
That's be an interesting matchup. I think Clemson's kind of out of it. I mean, they got blown out by Louisville last week. And Louisville's not that good of a team. I was really high on Clemson last week. That was one of my favorite picks, and they just completely shit the bed. No other way to put it.
Is there a world before we get out of here tomorrow that at around 10 o'clock Eastern, everyone listening is like, yeah, Maryland beat Oregon. Like somehow that happened. Maryland beat Oregon in Oregon. Is there any chance? Like maybe a 2% chance?
No.
1% chance? Okay. Is
Oregon's firing. Dan Lanning is very similar of a coach to Dan Campbell. I was watching something. I don't know if you've seen Gladiator, but
sure.
The are you not entertained aspect of that.
And Lanning's got that same
moxie, and he's like, yeah, we're going to go into these places, and I'm going to call timeout with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you're going to watch these fans leaving, and you're going to say to yourself, and you're going to yell at the fans, are you not entertained?
You know what? Sometimes it's the only way that works is like, the only way that works is just create an enemy. That's why I love sports. You get to pretend to hate something for a few hours, and at the end of the day, it's just fun. College football. Hope everybody enjoys it tomorrow. This Ravens game last night was so much fun. I'm like, just
hell of a day to watch some football. Yeah.
Yeah, the Ravens were amazing last night. Then we got a great slate of games on Sunday. So good luck to everybody. Appreciate you doing this with me at a different time than we typically do it. Hope everybody has a great day. And have a pod out tomorrow morning doing some more college football with J Mart. And I'll see you next week, man.
Sounds good.
All right, bro. See ya.